Va a empezar ya todo lo que es el contenido más específico de estas jornadas, que realmente creo que tienen una temática apasionante y bueno, pues dentro de lo que es esa temática apasionante es realmente un placer tener en esta mesa dos visiones y dos aportaciones desde puntos de vista distintos pero tremendamente complementarios, como vamos a ver. La primera proviene del Instituto La Human, que como más en esta casa, el Politécnico, como saben, es un instituto tremendamente activo y prolífico en todo lo que son las aplicaciones tecnológicas en el campo de la salud y en el campo de la promoción del bienestar. Aunque hoy Mariano Alcañiz, que es su director, no nos puede acompañar porque tenía un compromiso a última hora, va a estar tremendamente bien representada por una colega, por Maya, que nos va a hacer la presentación de la primera ponencia, que es la de realidad virtual y juegos serios, aplicaciones en salud mental.
Pues buenos días. Bueno, mi español está limitado, pero voy a hacer lo que pueda para... pues me han informado que sería en español. Pues bueno, la presentación está, bueno, okay, I will change to English. Then English is much more easier for me. Anyway, they informed me that this speech should be in Spanish, so the presentation is in Spanish, but I will keep going in English, so I can make this everybody will be covered. And okay, so I hope that the presentation we can talk about today, it's about new technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality applied to phobia treatment, more specifically small animals phobia. So I'm one of the researchers in Latvia, which is directed by Mariano Alcañiz, and I'm also doing my PhD in University, So let's see what is the phobia. Basically, the phobia it's represented by. I haven't prepared my speech in English, so I will do my best. Okay, sorry. So the phobia is represented by a lot of people in the United States. For example, it's 8.7%, and small animals phobia it's around 5% in the US. The same kind of numbers can be found in Europe. Which kind of treatment do we have right now? Well, basic treatment. We can find like a traditional treatment for small animals phobia, like in vivo, and more technology-mediated treatments such as virtual reality and augmented reality treatment. So let's have a look on what is the in vivo exposure therapy. So basically, as you can see on the photo, we have the therapist and the patient interacting together with the real animal. So we have the real animal which is in the terrarium, and the patient should little by little gradually get into the get closer to the animal and interact with it. Basically, the in vivo therapy it's considered as the basic therapy, as the most traditional one to use as a standard therapy. However, it has some drawbacks. For instance, between 60 and 80% of people that suffer of phobia don't look for treatment. They are a little bit afraid of what's going to happen during this kind of confrontation with the real animal, so they prefer not to do it at all. The treatment also is associated with a high level of dropouts during the treatment, and also there's, from therapist perspective, there's some logistic issues such as controlling the place to leave the real animal, to feed it, to have the terrarium, etc. So, and the most important one is, of course, that there is a lack of control of this animal, which is, the cockroach can always fly away somewhere, and it's very stressful, and it doesn't allow to fully control the environment and to give to the patient the security and confidence for both therapists and them. Okay, so we have another type of treatment, which is virtual reality treatment. Here you have this great photo from application done by KitLab in Washington, New Zealand. And so you can see that the researcher is handling a virtual spider, and it's showing to the head-mounted display that on casco that people had on their head. And basically, the patient is fully immersed in the environment. So, well, this is, and the patient also interacts in some way with the virtual spider. There is no more real spider, so it's much more easy to, well, not so easy, but it's still a little bit less anxious to confront the virtual spider for patient than the real one. There's already some investigations demonstrated that there is the same efficacy, clinical efficacy as the in vivo treatment for virtual reality treatment. However, there is some positive points that resolve well, the drawbacks that we talked about before regarding in vivo treatment. So the virtual reality treatment allows to control more the phobic stimulus, which well, we can just touch the button and we can make the spider bigger, smaller, stop it, or just take it away in any moment possible. And well, we have less logistic problems because the same thing, we can just switch on the computer and the spider appears and do the same thing when we don't want to use it anymore. And also it allows to gradually expose the patient and to make the condition of the exposure much more trustful and much more secure. However, we have still some drawbacks here. So what we thought is that, well, here the communication between patient and therapist, especially non-verbal communication, it's a little bit low because of the head-mounted display. So, well, basically the patient is fully immersed, so they can interact, they of course can talk, and the patient has this very important support of the therapist. However, we can still improve this kind of treatment. And also, well, the head-mounted display that you can see here, it's huge. it evolves during the time. Now you can find some very small kind of glasses, but still, well, it's an artifact that the patient has to wear. Okay, now I'm going to present you a recently introduced technology in this kind of disorder. It's augmented reality. So here there is some improvements compared to virtual reality and in vivo treatment. And basically what's happening here is that the exposure is with the virtual animal, but the real environment is augmented by these virtual objects. And the patient and therapist can interact also with the animals. So as you can see on the photo, there is also a head-mounted display, there is a camera on it, so there is a superposition between virtual images and real images of the environment around. There is already some clinical efficacy evaluation which prove that the augmented reality is effective, and also we've done some very pilot evaluation comparing in vivo and augmented reality, and the data are very good. What are the positive points of this kind of technology is that basically it's the same as virtual reality, the control, security, immediacy of use of the system. However, there is some additional point which is very interesting for this kind of disorders, it's that there is very low cost of programming and development, because we don't need, as in the case of virtual reality, to develop all the virtual environment. We only need to develop just, well, spiders or cockroaches. So it's much less expensive. And there is also, well, better presence and reality judgment, because the patient can see their hands, their personal stuff around the cockroaches, and they feel much more immersed in the reality. Some more drawbacks as well. Well, same head-mounted display, and well, a lot of hardware. We've done a study that analyzed that therapist activity during this kind of treatment, and we saw that the therapist has to look on the screen in order to see what the patient is seeing, has to control on the keyboard which function to put, has to take notes. So a lot of things to do, and it might be a little bit, well, the therapist can have some overload, work overload regarding this issue. So which kind of challenges do we have here in this kind of technologies applied to small animal phobia treatment? Well, first of all, we want to improve the patient-therapist communication. We know that while the head-mounted display is something that can be seen as the input that put the limitation on the non-verbal communication between the patient and the therapist. And since the non-verbal communication is very important, therefore we consider that we can propose another type of display, such as, for example, projection. Okay, we'll see this after. We would like also to improve the motivation of patients, because the decrease of motivation in patients is considered as one of the principal reasons for dropouts. So we need to find some ways of motivating patients in the therapy and to bring them to the therapy. So we were thinking about introducing the serious games to the therapeutic process. And one of the studies which recently appeared from Christina Budea and her colleagues showed that, well, serious games in treatment of phobias are very useful, and people basically, patients that tried the serious game diminished her anxiety significantly just before the session. So basically it's working even though there is no therapist, and it prepares the patient to confront the phobic stimulus during the therapy. So basically what we want to do as well is to introduce the serious games in the system and try to propose something like this in order to motivate more patients. And finally, what we would like to do is to give the patient and the therapist more natural interaction, because as you could see in both systems, virtual reality and augmented reality, while there's a lot of hardware and the interaction with spiders and cockroaches are not so natural. You can put your hand, they can pass you, they can pass on your hand, they can pass on your personal stuff, but there is nothing more than, you can't touch it, you can't do something with them. So we were looking for something that could involve them more, and therefore put some more presence and reality judgment into by these interactions. Okay, so with all this together, we've done I think great project, and it's named Therapeutic Lab. And now there is some technical problems, so I will go from this presentation and I will show you the video from here.